Good morning, Liz.
Good morning, Kris.
So I just want to say, well, we get started, like, thank you for doing this again. I know that we've done this before, but it's been a really long time. And so you've had a lot of life changes and stuff going
Oh
on.
yeah.
This actually might not be a bad thing for us to go through together again anyway. So
I think it will be really beneficial for me.
that's why we're doing it. So way back when we started coaching together a couple of years ago now, we kind of sat down, we talked about your bigger, like, longer term goals. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're going to do again today is we're going to reassess. It's just because they were something a couple years ago, it doesn't mean they have to be the same thing now. Yeah, just for point of reference, like, you've just gotten married. I was just at the wedding. It was awesome, and we had a beautiful time. And that's like a huge shift in priorities and mentality. So when it comes to your health and fitness stuff, let's talk about kind of where you want to go now. Maybe, like, let's talk about where you wanted to go first, like what your old goals were, and let's see how they've changed.
I feel like my goals haven't changed. I feel like my understanding of how I may want to go about achieving said goals has been through many reality checks. And that almost is very frustrating because I'm like, okay, so I want this thing, but the only way I've been able to attain that thing in the past has been through very dysfunctional behavior. Yesterday, even, like, while I was going on a hike, I started thinking, like, well, okay, this is what I want. Oh yeah, I've never been able to achieve this without, like, eating literally just 1,200 calories obsessively with no break from that. And then all of a sudden I started getting really sad. I'm like, oh shit, then I maybe will never be able to achieve that. And then I'm like, but I feel like my goal is not ridiculous. So, feeling just really frustrated with, like, okay, well, how can I get there? And is that even a good thing for me? Will I ever be able to get there without dysfunctional behavior?
Yeah, I mean, this is something we've talked a lot about in the past. It's like, okay, I know how to do this one way, but that way isn't working for me long term, and I don't really want to do it again because it's kind of miserable. But I need a new way, and I'm
And
not quite
damaging.
damaging, right?
I frankly wouldn't mind if it were just miserable, but my body wouldn't be damaged, but I know now enough, thanks to you and thanks to the coaching you've given me. And I know enough to be like, well, that's just going to damage me and then I have to undo that damage. And then I won't like what happens from undoing that damage because it's inevitable.
Right, and that's the cycle we've been working on breaking, right? Is the idea that in order to achieve this, you have to do drastic, horrible, unpleasant things, which you are absolutely willing to do, but those still aren't quite getting you where you want to go, right? So let's go back to, what do you actually want? Like you said, your goals haven't changed, but we haven't been specific about what they are. So let's first let's set out our kind of goalposts, for lack of a better way to say it, your markers on the map of where you want to get to. And let's do it from the point of view of, like, what do you want? Because we know what you're scared of and we know what you want to avoid, but what we want to focus on is where we want to go. You don't, like, it's like I was saying, I think we did it in a podcast at one point, but it's like, don't look where you don't want your bike to go. Like, if you don't want to hit the tree, don't look at the tree. Look at the path. So let's look at the path and let's figure out where you want to go.
How do I put this? So obviously I have, like, a number I'm thinking of. That would just be a super basic way of saying, well, this is where I want to go. I mean,
like a scale number you're thinking of?
Yes, like a scale number, a size number. I'm not even sure if they actually correlate appropriately, but I have these numbers in my head. And then I think about, like, well, what can get me there that are positive things that are already what I'm doing, but just doing a little bit better and a little bit better in a very, structured way.
Right. And we know that that's the path, right? But we need to know exactly, well, not exactly, but more concretely where we're going so we can check in if we're on the right path throughout the course of it, right? So
yeah,
part of that is going to come back to sort of assessing why you want to be that certain number, whatever that number is. And we can talk about, also that's an outcome goal.
Yeah.
right? And that's okay to have. We want to have some of those, but it's not necessarily the only way to get from here to there. So that's a lot, maybe a lot of different things. So let's try to keep it simple and structured for now. So let's go back to, you want a certain number on the scale. Whatever that number is, let's just put a mark in the wall. What's the number?
What's the number? Honestly, I just want to be under 200 pounds.
Okay, under 200 pounds.
Yeah.
That's a good marker.
I think that's like my goal. And then I kind of want to reassess from there to see what actually feels right. I have in my head, oh, I don't think I'll be able to be in a really like optimum healthy state for myself if I'm under like 175 personally, but that's also just speculation. But I just want to get under 200.
You feel like your optimum health range is between that like 175 and 200?
That's what I'm speculating.
Okay. Why are you unsure?
Because I've never been at that weight stably. I've only been like 145 pounds where I was almost dying. Or like I've really maintained around like 240, and then like I don't know how much I weigh right now because I found weighing myself very triggering, but then also frustrating because I'm like, well, I don't know what the fuck is happening without weighing myself, and that's causing me anxiety. So I'm kind of like, I don't know where to go from here. And I think like the last time I weighed in was like, it was like after like the move and the pandemic, it was like 250, like probably 258 or something like that, I think. So I'm scared to death to step on a scale. I'm scared to fucking death. Because I stopped weighing myself at that point because I was like, oh, I just see the scale going up and I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm like freaking out. And I feel like if it's higher than like 258, 260, I'm gonna be like, oh my God, and I'm gonna freak out.
Yeah, and this is, again, trying to get us to focus on where you want to go versus where you don't want to go, because it's a fear, right? The fear is that like, because you've been trying these different things, you're going to step on that scale and you're going to prove that it didn't work, and that the only thing that does work is self-abuse, right? So that's the fear.
Yeah.
And that's, we know that. And again, we've worked together for a long time, so I feel like I don't need to elicit that from you. That's a very well anchored pattern that we know about, right? So
I generally feel very unhappy with like the way my body looks, especially in pictures. And I also feel like it's hard, it's so subjective, but I'm like, but I feel heavier than feels comfortable when I'm doing my activities. I feel like I've been pushing myself on my hiking, yet I seem to not really improve that much with my speed. And I besides aesthetic reasons, I do feel like I'm not able to do the athletic things I want very comfortably because of my size. I don't move as fast as I would like to, like when I'm doing, a yoga video or something. It's very frustrating because I'm all like, okay, it takes me a little bit longer than, the yoga teacher to move between these movements. And sometimes it's really hard to get my leg in the right position. And it's frustrating. I'm like, I want to be able to move more freely. And I guess for me, it feels like I would be able to move more freely just, I hate to say like smaller body, but like more lithe body, or
I think that kind of leads me around to like, it's clear that being in a smaller body for you means better ability to move around, but like, why is being more active so important for you?
I mean, well, it feels good sometimes, especially afterwards. I don't want it to feel like such a struggle. I really feel like I mean, being active is important to me because I think it helps a lot with my depression and my, feelings of like, oh, I'm taking care of myself. And I feel like if I were, a certain size, I wouldn't find athletics so triggering. I feel like I just be like, whatever, I just did my workout instead of like, oh my God, that was such a struggle. Do you see that other person who like whizzed past you on the trail running? I just feel like it would definitely put me in a better place mentally and emotionally to then do more instead of like, well, I'm kind of dreading this. Like the only thing I don't dread is weightlifting. I'm like, yeah, I'm great at weight. I feel confident with my weightlifting and I don't feel triggered by it. But when I do things like yoga or, of course, dance, I used to do a lot of dance and I was always way bigger, taller and bigger than everyone. And I loved dance and especially like running and hiking. I just feel like those are almost things I dread a little bit because I want to be faster and lighter on my feet.
So why is it that you equate being smaller with exercise being easier?
I feel with some exercises, it really is. Like with yoga, I know there's been a big movement to make yoga good for any size, but most of the yoga videos that I follow out there and the yoga teachers, I'm just like, this is a real struggle for anyone who's not like a size 2 to 4. The way their movements are, like the poses that they show you, I'm just like, if you have any extra weight like in your stomach or anything, you're just fucked. You're just fucked. And they don't, they can't show you a different way because they don't know it.
The thing I love about coaching you is that every time we talk, even though we sometimes tend to talk about the same things, I always learn more about you without having to like really drag it out of you. And that is so wonderful. Like, it's so wonderful because like I'm having so many like insights and thoughts into like, this is another thing we could start talking about, because I think this may not be what you really want to hear, but you can move at any size and you know that, right? Like, and you know that like it's good for you.
I want to look good when I move.
That was actually really important what you said. That I think we've just found the real root of it. And it's not good or bad. It's perfectly normal stuff, right? Like we all want to look good naked when we move, and not just for ourselves, but because that people do look at other people, whether that's right or wrong. That is what happens. And so I think if you look back at what we just did through this little exercise, one of the biggest, most important things is that you just want to feel good and feel like you look like you belong when you're doing something.
Yeah.
And I think I was going to go with it was more of a like, I just want to say, as somebody who's been a lot of different sizes, exercise never feels any better. It feels hard at every level. And I think that's something that I remember thinking as well, is like, God, if I just weighed less, this would be like literally riding my bike this year up a mountain. I was like, God, if I just didn't have this extra 15 pounds from the 2 surgeries in quarantine, like I could totally kill this. And there's this temptation to always like one up yourself of like, if I was just better, I could do better. And I think that's the root of this. And this is how we're going to build out your destination postcard this time, is by avoiding, I think, that of when I get there, I can do it better.
I remember saying like, I wanted to look pretty much objectively like, oh, you work out. I wanted that. And I know I can't like put thoughts into other people's heads, but I do feel like there is a certain look I could probably achieve where it's like, oh, you really work out. Like you can clearly see that.
How will you know when you get there?
I think for me, it would be like through videos of myself and pictures where I could be like, oh, that's something that you don't achieve by not like lifting heavy. And,
I'm smiling too. So like, I mean, I think it's pretty clear how you want to feel, right? You
Yeah.
want to feel like your body is functioning and looking good, doing it at functioning well, right? And you want to be doing lots of activities because you do really genuinely like doing stuff, right? Like
I do. And
you're
I
always,
don't want to be scared to do things. I don't
Right.
want to, and I don't want to feel triggered when I go and work out with others, especially with like anything aerobic. I don't want to feel like I'm so embarrassed with how much I'm lagging behind or something.
yeah, and I think that's a don't. So that's valid and important, but let's focus on the do's. Like, so what would be the do for that rather than the don't? I can give it to you. You don't have to like start off right.
Okay.
I want to show up to an aerobics class and feel awesome in it. Right? That's what I want to do. So, and maybe it's not a class, like that might not be it. Maybe it's I want to go for a hike and just feel awesome at the end of my hike. And like I did a great job, or I got a little bit faster this time. Yeah. So there's that. You know, some of the other questions that are very specifically on the destination postcard are what adventures do you want to be having and how do these align with your identity, priorities, and values? And I think we've talked a lot already about those because, again, the best part of coaching you is that I can kind of be like, hey, and you're like, yeah, cool. And you like run with it. So I think it's pretty clear. I'm going to say some of it back to you and you can tell me if you think it's right or if I'm off on any of it. But it's like, you just want to feel more free in your body. And you don't want to feel like going and doing things is going to bring judgment on you. It's just going to be enjoyable. You just want to go out and enjoy life and spend time in the woods and go places and do things without worrying about it.
Yeah.
That sound about right?
And I want to feel superior to others athletically.
I mean, yeah. Okay.
I mean, I do.
I want to be like this. Better than you. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, this is like a totally normal human thing, right? We are naturally a competitive group and we live in a social environment with like other people. We're a group kind of animal. And like part of that is establishing your position within the group. And so if the position that you want to be in the group requires X, Y, and Z, then we're just going to go do X, Y, and Z. Right? So that's where we're going to get a bit more specific about it. And map out exactly what it is you need to do and take those outcomes that you want of like, you know, you've got kind of a weight range of, you know, 175 to 200 that you'd like to be at. We've got like some more practical things of like, I want to be going outside and I want to feel like my cardiovascular fitness is improving. I want to lift heavy shit because it's cool. Those are some pretty tangible outcomes that we can work with to then generate some consistent behaviors.
Yeah.
And you've been doing a lot of this. I mean, this is now me.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we've achieved the goal of the coaching session over there, but like, this is definitely, I did want to do this with you particularly because it has been a while.
Yeah, it has been.
Since we went through this and just to see how things have changed. And if they haven't, then, you know, let's reassess and reorient and decide like, okay, these are the things we're going to focus on now. Because now the wedding is behind you. You can now decide, okay, I don't have this big blooming event. It's just, you know, the holidays and whatever the hell else 2022 is going to bring us, but we don't know. So we've just got to make a good plan from here, right? So
yeah,